Innovate UK KTN Innovation Exchange provides ambitious solution providers with the opportunity to collaborate with key industry stakeholders, helping these major businesses discover the most innovative solutions to solve real-world problems.
IX is a bit different to any other open innovation programme that you might see. What I love about it is if a challenge holder, as we define them, has a problem that they can't solve with their existing supply chain, we help reach parts of the supply chain that they wouldn't normally reach. I guess we have a black book that other organisations might not have at their fingertips.
First of all, it's the challenge owners, and they really like it because it allows them to get access to new ideas from different sectors of people they wouldn't normally meet. And the second party are the solution providers. And what they really struggle with is getting access, getting their foot through the door to the right people. And this takes them and introduces them to the right people with the technical skills that will assess what they're proposing.
It helps people find things they didn't know. It's those solutions that, gosh, never even thought that would work, or I didn't know that we could sell that to those. And that's the advantage for both sides.
The main benefit of Innovation Exchange is it breaks down barriers, it breaks down silos. Innovation and commercialisation is perceived as incredibly difficult. The IX process facilitates the transition of technology through to commercialisation across sectors.
Large companies, small companies, everybody's busy, everybody is tied up. We try and reduce the amount of time that you need to put into to get what you require.
So with the Innovation Exchange, we've proven it to be successful primarily in the energy sector. However, net zero gives us a great opportunity to step into other sectors. In addition, we have potential growth areas with local authorities. We can create an Innovation Exchange for the investor network. So there are a great number of areas where this can grow.
The way we've designed the IX process makes it really easy for public sector organisations to implement, as it maps perfectly to the innovation partnership procurement routes.
The solutions that we've been able to extract through the process, we've reached out to, I think, some 40,000 businesses across the UK. We've really gained from the technologists in the KTN and the real subject matter experts that could really help us to distinguish from what might be good projects to what are excellent projects. We've really been able to get the cream of the crop through that to get to some really, really exciting, promising, highly innovative projects that I think without the KTN we wouldn't necessarily have been able to find.
Our technology began initially in the food industry, and then by the help of KTN we managed to move it into nuclear industry, but also now we are thinking of its use in other sectors.
And by joining basically such a program into the KTN, this helps a lot into bridging this gap and get into a better insights. What are the end users' challenges and what they're looking for? And it will help us, as you have seen, into interdisciplinary application, taking our knowledge, our expertise and applying it into other sectors.
Through relationships and also technical development, I don't think that we've experienced a better setup than the KTN IX program.
If I'd sum it up in one thing, it would be kind of this end-to-end support. So it wasn't that we had, a different point of contact for different parts of it and things got lost along the way. No, we were engaging with the same people from the start to finish. So there was this kind of consistency in what we were wanting to do, and there was some ownership of it from the KTN side, which we really valued.
We've got quite a big Innovate UK project now through our networks with the KTN because of getting involved in Innovation Exchange. So I highly recommend it.
Connecting people to make positive change, and that's what Innovation Exchange allows.
Hello everyone and welcome to the applicant briefing for the Innovation in Professional and Financial Services competition. This is the agenda for today. I'm going to introduce you to who we have on the call with us today, and then we'll give you an overview of the AI for Services network and take you through the scope and process sections. There will be a Q&A section during this presentation where you will have the opportunity to ask any questions related to the scope or process. Please feel free to type any questions into the chat as we go through the briefing, and we will answer as many questions as we can. So my name's Sarah Hunt, and I'm the Portfolio Manager for this competition here at Innovate UK. Stephen Browning is the Challenge Director for Next Generation Services and is also from Innovate UK. Wyn Faria is the Knowledge Transfer Manager for Professional Financial Services and Blockchain and is from the KTN. I will now hand over to Wyn, who will run through all of the AI for Services and Create Growth Programme. Thanks, Wyn.
Thanks, Sarah. Just try and move the slides along.
Innovative solutions.
So I'm having trouble moving the slides along. I do apologise.
That's okay, Wyn. Just shout when you want me to move them along for you.
Fantastic. If you could just put them to the first slide, that would be great. Thanks, Sarah. So thank you very much for the kind introduction, Sarah. My name is Wyn Faria. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm part of the Creative Industries team, and I am the KTN or Knowledge Transfer Network Lead for Professional Services, AI and Blockchain. What this means is that I help people connect to help innovators create opportunities and partnerships to accelerate their thinking. So really helping people to get the best out of the opportunity and getting the best out of the idea they might have had. I have a very short presentation to take you through what KTN is and what it does. A big thing we do is to create new connections through the connections we have. We also work with funding partners to create and promote knowledge of upcoming grant funding and contract funding that is made available to UK companies or companies who may operate within the UK. We do this through a series of teams that cover a wide range of topic areas from robotics, manufacturing, and including the team that I lead, AI for Services. There are lots of other people within KTN that have unique interests and specialist topic areas, and this sort of shows KTN's breadth of knowledge and the ability to have deep expertise gained through our connections to industry, academia, and the research base. Another aspect of the KTN, which is really important, is to help form that deep expertise around the communities we have. This is to help people understand what is actually going on in a specific topic area and maybe what's going on at a governmental level. It allows us to engage with those multifaceted groups, such as the academic groups, research, industry, and look at topics which are going to pose significant challenge to the UK and globally. In order to do this, we run a series of innovation networks, of which AI for Services is one, to help to get some of that learning and understanding across and help further the community itself. How can people get hold of all this information in and for the future? There are emails that you can subscribe to from the KTN website, or you can tap into some updates on events, updates on funding, and subscribe to newsletters. Sarah, if we could move to the next slide, please. Thank you. We encourage positive change and create diverse connections to drive this positive change. We provide deep and wide-ranging expertise and convene the expertise of others. We drive powerful connections with and within business, and this is at the heart of what we do. We get involved in future shaping, and we shape the innovation communities of the future and provide an exceptional place of work for our exceptional people. Moving on to the next slide, we work with nearly 50,000 organisations, but I think the most important thing is that we convene diverse communities of innovators. Our innovation networks united some of the best minds and greatest thinkers from across the UK in areas of innovation, development, and new technologies. We connect regional, national, and global innovation. So our Global Alliance programme drives international collaborations with governments, societies, enterprises, institutions, and people from every corner of the globe. We run global expert missions. These GEMs are funded by Innovate UK rather kindly and delivered in collaboration with Innovate UK by KTN. This driving the sharing of expertise and cross-border collaboration helps foster global collaboration across many continents. This helps to build international strategic partnerships and provide insight into innovation opportunities for the UK. We also connect UK research and business. Our knowledge transfer partnerships build long-lasting connections and collaborations between the working and learning worlds. We connect innovators, funders, and collaborators to transform ideas into solutions. KTN's Innovation Exchange programme connects companies with specific challenges to innovators who are already working on solutions. Our unique cross-sector approach connects businesses with opportunities beyond their existing thinking. So sort of moving to the final slide now, and stats aside, we drive innovation by connecting insight to impact. How do we do this, and what does that mean? Well, published by the KTN in collaboration with London Economics and Innovate UK, the AI for Services 2020 report provides insight into the adoption of AI and data technologies in the accounting, insurance, finance, and legal sectors. And if I get a second, I'll post that in the chat. We also ran 2 global expert missions, GEMS, one virtual to the city-state of Singapore and one in person to Toronto, Canada, where we explored collaborations across professional services and intergovernmentally. Finally, I would also strongly encourage you to all join the AI for Services network. You can see the link at the bottom. I'll post it all in the chat as well. It just remains for me to say thank you for listening and handing back to Sarah.
Thanks for that, Wyn. So just to give you all a brief overview of Innovate UK and UKRI. UKRI work with the government to invest over £7 billion a year in research and innovation. This is done through the UK's 9 leading academic and industrial funding councils. We create knowledge with impact. Innovate UK is the UK's innovation agency. We drive productivity and economic growth by supporting businesses to develop and realise the potential of new ideas, including those from the UK's world-class research base. Our mission is to help the UK businesses grow through the development and commercialisation of new products and processes and services, supported by an outstanding innovation ecosystem that is agile, inclusive, and easy to navigate. We say UK's businesses, when we say UK businesses, we mean any company that has an operating footprint in the UK and contributes to our economy. Whilst we support companies to de-risk innovation, we aren't here to do the innovation for you. We're here to help you realise your ideas, but they need to be fully formed with a plan to develop and diffuse. We firmly believe that innovation is at the heart of the UK future growth and prosperity. The UK ranks 4th in the Global Innovation Index 2021 innovation accounts. For up to 50% of productivity, businesses that consistently invest in R&D have greater productivity and are more likely to export and generate growth. So that was just a quick overview of UKRI and Innovate UK. I'd now like to hand over to Stephen, who's going to run through the scope for the competition. Thanks, Stephen.
So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to run through, as Sarah said, the scope for the competition. But before I get to that, I want to give you some background on what we're trying to do as a whole. This competition is part of a larger programme that we're starting out in Innovate UK Innovate UK and ESRC, I should say, over the next 3 years. So I just want to give you some background to that so you can get a sense of what we're trying to achieve both in the programme and then through the competition itself. So probably something that most of you are aware of, but the professional and financial services really are a fundamental part of the UK economy. Not only do they contribute massively themselves to the UK through the figures you can see on the screen now, but they are also the services that businesses and individuals turn to plan their future, to develop propositions, and in their hour of need. So you can think individually, people creating wills through legal services or trying to do their financial planning. Every business needs accountants and legal support and all insurance. So they are fundamental to the economy. However, through our previous work in the next generation services and through general research across the economy, there is a issue potentially with these sectors where they're not at least seen as particularly R&D intensive businesses. They don't generally invest very much. There are, of course, businesses that do invest from these sectors, but if you take the sectors as a whole, R&D investment is low. And why is that important? Because R&D and innovation drive increases in productivity and drive economic growth. So one of the things we're trying to do is change that and get them investing more in R&D. They also suffer quite a lot from legacy systems, so IT systems that are potentially quite old, but also legacy business models. So if you think about professional services in particular, quite often they are funded themselves by fee earners who go out and charge by the hour. So there's a reluctance to spend time on other activities such as innovation because it obviously takes away from the fee earning capacity. They also have some cultural barriers such as risk aversion. Again, if you think about the fact that a lot of these sectors are around managing risk, and to innovate, you need to take risks. So there's some cultural barriers around that. There's some cultural barriers around homogeneity of skills. So law firms, again, typically are run and populated by lawyers rather than having other skill sets in there, such as technical skills or project management skills or process skills, etc. And then data is often in inappropriate forms or siloed across organizations. And the final one there is, I sort of touched on it, the skills to innovate are not necessarily there. But we know from PwC research that AI alone could raise the GDP of these sectors by 10% by 2030. So there's some really important barriers there that we need to overcome. And within the programme, the Next Generation of Professional and Financial Services programme, what we're trying to do is help those sectors transform through the responsible use of digital technologies, developing those and deploying those to deliver really world-leading services, increasing their competitiveness, and also driving the economic growth of the UK and underpinning societal and economic resilience. So back to those points about the fact that these sectors support the rest of the economy and individuals. So some objectives we have from that, you might see the connection through you should see the connection through quite easily. First of all, we're trying to help the sectors build their ability to innovate and engage responsibly with innovation, whether that's innovate directly themselves or engage with technology businesses that will provide innovative solutions to them. We want to increase the access to data across these sectors. We want to support them in maintaining their capability and the UK's capability and expand their domestic markets and international markets. And finally, we want to make sure that these services are available to communities or individuals that maybe would have been excluded previously from these services, or they're underserved for some reason. Many SMEs, for example, don't access the legal services or the insurance services that they could really benefit from. So to do all that, we have a program where, first of all, we are continuing with the AI for Services network to bring all that together that Wynne mentioned earlier, and I would really strongly encourage you to join that network. It's a free to join network, and that is where we will be disseminating all the learning from the program, and through the newsletters that they put out, you'll hear about activities that will continue in the program. So that's the first thing. I will come on to this particular scope of this competition, which is looking at trying to help develop new services and technologies. We will be, in probably 4 or 5 months' time, be rolling out an activity around enabling data access. So that's an upcoming future activity. And finally, there is on Monday going to open an activity through the Economic and Social Research Council to help in the adoption of technologies. So I'm just going to touch briefly on that. What we're trying to do there is create some centres of activity to help people in the demand side firms, so legal services, financial services firms, insurance firms, to look at the human behavioural aspects that sort of are barriers to engaging with innovation, and help them get through those barriers. So that competition will call through ESRC, will start on Monday, as I said. So now really turning to the core of what we're trying to do within this competition. So the scope of this competition, first of all, the sectors or the areas of professional and financial services that we're focusing on. We want to look at legal services, so whether that's conveyancing through to providing legal advice in courts, through to contracts, all those legal services that are out there. And it's a really quite broad scope, but think of it as where lawyers or legal advice need to be rolled out. That's the first area. The second area is looking at accountancy, so accountancy and audit services. So that could be auditing, the classic auditing of financial auditing, but it could also spread to, for example, looking at areas of social responsibility and proving that people are actually, for example, living up to their claims around carbon reduction. Third area is insurance, so that whole insurance sector, whether it's making those services that are currently existing more efficient or looking at new approaches to insurance. Fourth area, open finance, so that's going beyond just open banking and thinking about open finance in terms of, say, pensions, investments, all those other financial services that individuals and businesses rely on. Sort of touches on the next one, financial supply planning and support, particularly for consumers and small businesses. And then looking at the sort of things that maybe are sort of friction for businesses, friction around financial regulatory compliances or financial crime prevention, ways to reduce fraud, anti-money laundering, those sorts of things. We're interested in those. And finally, the broad area of payments and transactions. And just to come back, we are particularly interested in looking for solutions that help underserved and excluded communities, individuals, or businesses. And you'll hear me say that a couple of times because it's on the start of the next slides. We are wanting to have that societal impact as well as the economic impact. Areas that we're particularly interested in, as well as that, are projects or proposals that cover more than one sector. So maybe looking at how legal services and financial services overlap could be an example of making that more efficient and more effective. Or also projects that are broad in scope within one of those sectors. So not necessarily just fixing a single point solution in one aspect of developing a contract, say, but looking broader at how contracts work across the entire legal services sector, or how you can make the legal services sector more efficient. We would like to see sort of more multidisciplinary activity within a project. So not just thinking, for example, about what are the technical things that need to be addressed, but also the how you address the human aspects of that. So thinking about the social sciences as well as the engineering or other science areas, how you bring that all together within your project proposal to really try and ensure that you have that broader view and are more likely to be able to roll out and deploy the solution that you're looking at. Because typically, I would say it's not the technical barriers that really stop projects from deploying, it's more the human aspects. So we really want to see people considering both of those. And then particularly for the collaborative stream, there are two streams of activity within this competition, one that's single company only and one that's for collaboration. So particularly within the collaborative stream, we're keen to see collaborations with the real end user firms. So that was what we're looking for, what's in scope. Some areas that we are saying are out of scope. These are principally because there are other areas of support within Innovate UK that pick up these things. But areas that we're not looking for projects to develop are, first of all, new quantum technologies. So if you have a bright idea of how you can develop a technology around entanglement or superpositioning or whatever it might be on quantum technology or quantum computing, developing a new quantum computer, that's not what we're looking for in scope because there's an existing program to look at that. We will, though, accept uses of existing quantum technologies. So if you have an existing technology that is, say, quantum encryption and it forms part of what you're trying to do as a broader program, that's fine. But specifically developing the quantum technology, that's not really where we're wanting to focus. Secondly, climate finance, green finance. So we are not looking for projects that would show how you would fund green solutions, how you might bring, I don't know, insurance products to make a green solution. We will, though, look at things that are let's say the sort of greening of finance. So if you have a proposition that is helping an insurance product become more sustainable, more climate friendly, That's great if you have a solution where you're trying to make something else, another industry, say net zero, by using finance, then that's not what we're after. We're also not looking at the development of new cryptocurrencies. So payment systems are in scope, but we don't, we're not keen to see a load of new propositions that are, we want to develop this new cryptocurrency, a rival to Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever it might be. That's not where we're wanting to focus. I said part of what we're going to do in the broader program is trying to increase the access to data across these services. So we are wanting that to happen in that competition rather than in this one. So if you have a proposition that is specifically about increasing the access to data for these services, then we would more than likely say, okay, we're going to put that out of scope, and you can put it into the competition when it opens in a few months. If I think data is so central to most digital competitions, projects, proposals, that of course we will consider projects that are using data, but projects that are trying to ensure that there's data sharing, say, across the insurance supply chain, something of that ilk, then that's what would be out of scope for us. And then broadly speaking, if there's other funding support available through Innovate UK, we may say it's more appropriate to go into those other funding things and thus put it out of scope. And then finally, I think it's finally, some bits that we really are looking to be included within the proposal. So clearly considering user experience design and how that your particular proposal might be rolled out and used and fit within human processes, that we want included in there, right? We're keen to see thinking about broader non-technical aspects such as ethics, if it's relevant to your particular proposals, or privacy, transparency, regulation, all those more non-technical things. We want to see that you are considering how you might overcome the barriers to adoption of your particular solution or the rollout of it. Mainly because we have seen so often that solutions come along and haven't considered that, and then they just stop because it's those human areas that then stop it. And we want to understand how you're expecting to exploit your solution. Oh, and then really finally this time, there's some potentially useful background documents that you might want to go and look at. The Khalifa review of UK FinTech has a lot of information on what the barriers are in these areas and what could be done. Similarly, out of the Next Generation Services Programme, we had some research projects that have produced a good number of papers and knowledge on what the barriers are, how to overcome those barriers, what the opportunities are within, in those cases, specifically accountancy, insurance and legal services. FinTech Scotland has produced a really nice R&I, research and innovation roadmap, identifying some key areas that could be addressed, so that could be useful. There's a report from LawTech UK that shows where the issues, adoption issues, barriers, opportunities are across the legal sector. And then there's I won't go through all of them, but there's a number of others there, including one from AI for Services Network. All these links will be available within the brief. So you can search for those titles that I've put there, but the links will be available within the brief. And also these slides should be available within the Innovation Funding Service, so the application system that Sarah's going to come on to. So you can click through all the links there. And that is what I wanted to say. So we'll move to questions specifically on the scope before we then go to Sarah for an explanation of how to actually apply.
Great. Thanks for that, Stephen. So I can see that we've already got some questions in. What I'll do, if that's okay, is I'll read them out for you. Profit impact is led by finance professionals, and existing scope mainly covers environmental and social. We support SMEs. Finance element tends to be audit on E&S. Would this fit into the sector scope?
So, struggling to understand the question, I'm afraid. Is it in the chat? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay, so I think this is saying I was quite heavy on the social impact of the competition. Profit impact is also important. So we're trying to drive economic growth and societal impact. So yes, helping SMEs to be more profitable would be within scope. I hope that answers that question. If not, perhaps you can repost a slightly additional bit to that. Or I should also say, if we don't manage to answer everyone's questions in here, there is a Meeting Mojo system that has been set up where there are a few 5-minute slots from 12 o'clock to talk directly with me if people want to take that to be a bit more specific around scope issues.
Great, thank you. The next question, WIN's theme is titled AI for Service. Is this particular CR&D competition technology agnostic as to the specific digital technology, or is it seeking solutions that utilize specifically AI?
So no, straight answer, no, we're not being specific to AI. It is about digital solutions. Just to explain, AI for Services is the name of the network that has supported the activity. It's a bit of a historic name. That's why it's called AI for Services, because it's a continuation from NGS. We may think about renaming that, but to answer the specific questions, broad digital technologies, it doesn't have to be AI. AI, though, of course, is within scope.
Thank you. Can a company receive funding under this call and the enabling data access call Stephen mentioned earlier?
So yes, if a business submits and is successful to this competition and then submits a different idea in the data access and is successful within that, then yes, funding would be available for both. Obviously, there's a couple of ifs about successful in there, etc. But yeah.
Great, thank you. There was also a question about whether the briefing will be available to rewatch after today. Just to confirm that this is being recorded and there will be links and recordings available to participants after this today. So the next question is, some projects may straddle payment services and access to data. Are these in scope?
The straight answer is it depends what the major focus of the project is. right? If the major focus is access to data, we will more than likely say that needs to go into the access to data activities and invite you to participate in that instead. If it's a small subset of the activity that you're proposing, then it could be in scope for this. But it's very difficult to give a sort of definitive answer here. It depends on really how much of that project, what's the real focus and intent of that project, whether it's access to data or whether it's doing something else.
Great, thank you. Can you clarify access to data? Does this include intelligence that is extracted from data sets or focused on the data set itself?
So what we will be trying to do is look at increasing the access to the data, so addressing barriers around like the format that data is in, or the fact that it's siloed within businesses, trying to make sure that data that would be beneficial across the sectors is more readily addressed. It's not the access to data project will not really be focusing on how to interpret that data. That might be a result of some of the projects that come through that, but the intention is much more about thinking of where data sets are locked away or inaccessible for some other reason, rather than the interpretation of the data.
Great, thank you.
I guess there might be a slight thing there, and linking it back to the previous one. If your project is accessing a data set that is already accessible and then using that in a new way, or using that in a beneficial, innovative way for the sectors, that could be in scope for this, or would be, I'd say, in scope for this competition rather than the access to data. The access to data will be much more about making that data available.
Thanks, Stephen. We are a not-for-profit company, limited by guarantee. Would we be eligible for this funding round?
Sarah, do you want to take that one? I'm pretty sure that it is available, but I think it's in the eligibility section that's coming up.
Yeah, it will all be in the eligibility section that's coming up. If it isn't, then we have a CSS team that applicants can contact for advice around that. Let's go to the next question. Can you reiterate what is able to be included and not included with respect to green finance?
Okay. So I think there's two terms that could be useful here. One is the financing of green, and the other is the greening of finance, right? So financing of green technologies or net zero or whatever it is that you want to call that sort of thing, that is not in scope. What would be in scope is finding ways to make financial services more net zero appropriate, more efficient in terms of carbon usage, or that sort of sustainability angle.
Great, thank you. The next question, does the collaborator company need to be UK registered? I believe that international companies cannot lead and they cannot receive funding, but they can be collaborators.
So this will come up again in the eligibility criteria, but essentially what you said is correct, Sarah. Collaborations can be either with UK companies or international companies, but if it's with an international company, then that international company cannot receive funding from us. You can still collaborate with them, they can still be a key part of the project, but the funding that we provide can only be used within UK businesses. Just to hit another point, there are a couple of countries in the current climate that we will not accept collaborations with, and those are Russia and Belarus.
Great, thanks for that, Stephen. Is there a minimum or maximum size for the collaborator company? I don't believe there is. I believe it can be any size. Go on.
If you have a collaboration, then there has to be an SME within that collaboration, right? You could have a collaboration between two large organizations and one SME, that works, but there has to be at least one SME within the collaboration.
Great, thank you. We'll do a few more and then we'll move on, and any that we haven't picked up, we'll pick up at the end of the session. How much funding is available and for how many companies?
Again, I think that's going to come up in the next section. It's a £7 million total competition, but the next section goes into all those details.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's certainly something that I can find before the end of the presentation.
It's in the next section.
Right.
Basically, it's a £7 million competition. If you're doing a single company project, the funding you can receive is between 50k and 200k. If you're doing a collaboration, the funding that the collaboration can receive is between 50k and 500k. The number of proposals will be dictated by the size of the ones that come in.
Great, thank you. I think what we'll do there, Stephen, is we'll stop the Q&A for now, and we'll go on to the next few slides and then pick up some more questions at the end. So what we'll do is we'll move on. We'll move on to the eligibility criteria for the competition, which is what a lot of those questions were based upon. So this competition does allow applicants to submit previously submitted applications. A previously submitted application is an application Innovate UK judges as not materially different from one you have already submitted before. If you are resubmitting an application, please be aware that addressing assessor feedback does not necessarily guarantee that your application will be funded. For this competition, we have two strands. We have one for single applicants and another for collaborations. To lead a project, on the single applicant strand, your organisation must be a UK registered micro, small or medium-sized enterprise or SME. To lead on the collaboration strand, your organisation must be a UK registered business of any size and collaborate with other eligible UK registered organisations. If you are a large organisation, you must include at least one grant claiming SME, and for both strands, the project must be carried out in the UK, the results of which need to be exploited within the UK. Costs for both the strands are different. If you're applying for the single applicant competition, total project costs should be within £50,000 and £200,000. If you're applying for the collaboration competition, total project costs should be within £50,000 and £500,000. For both strands of this competition, the project needs to start by the 1st of April 2023 and last between 6 and 18 months.
I'm sorry, Sarah, I wouldn't normally interrupt. There's a mistake in this slide.
Oh, okay.
It's not total project costs, it's total grant funding. So the project costs can be higher than that. It's the grant funding received by either the individual business or the collaboration.
Okay.
That's figures shown there.
Thanks for that, Stephen. What we'll do is we'll make sure that this is reflected on the slides before we publish them to everybody. So just to touch on the compliance with the UK subsidy control regime, as I'm sure you're all aware, on the 1st of January 2021, the UK left the EU and is no longer subject to EU laws on state aid. On this slide, you can see a link to the guidance issued by BEIS. If you are unsure as to whether you're eligible to receive a subsidy, please seek legal advice. Further information is available on our website, and you can also contact our customer support services team if you have any questions. When submitting an application, please ensure that your organisation is eligible for funding before you submit. As mentioned before, if you are unsure of whether you are eligible to receive subsidy control, please seek independent legal advice. Further information is available on our website, and as mentioned before, you can contact our support team if you have any questions. If you're an applicant who is conducting activities that will affect the trade of goods and/or electricity between Northern Ireland and the EU, as envisioned by Article 10 of the Northern Ireland Protocol, then you must apply under the European Commission state aid rules. In order to be eligible to receive state aid, you must pass the undertakings and difficulty test. This only applies to limited liability companies that are more than 3 years old. If you have a parent company, the test can be performed on your parent or holding company. If you are successful in the competition, we will apply this test as part of our viability checks. If you are unsure as to whether you're eligible to receive state aid, please seek legal advice. Further information is available on our website, and you can also contact our customer support team if you have any questions. Funding for R&D projects is split into 3 categories, so feasibility studies, industrial research, and experimental development. This slide shows the percentage of funding that you can receive based on your organisation size. Please remember that at least 70% of total eligible project costs must be incurred by a business. If you have an academic or an RTO in your consortium, the maximum level of project cost is 30%. If there is more than one, they would share the 30% between them. Research organisations are not able to lead in this competition, but may partner in as many applications as they wish. Just to touch on what is considered as a collaboration, in your application, there must be evidence of a genuine collaboration. You'll need to explain in your application how all parties will contribute to the project and benefit from the collaboration. For this competition, a business can apply as the lead for multiple applications across the 2 strands of this competition, but only one successful project will be funded. Any organisation can collaborate in any number of applications. If you have an outstanding final claim or an independent accountant report on a live Innovate UK project, you will not be eligible to apply for this competition as a lead or a partner organisation. We will also not award you any further funding if you applied to a previous competition as the lead or sole company and were awarded funding by Innovate UK, but did not make a substantial effort to exploit that award applied to a previous competition. So these are the key dates for the competition. It's important to note that the submission deadline is at 11 AM on the dot. IFS will automatically close at 11:01 and applications cannot be submitted. We strongly recommend that you submit your application as early as possible, as traffic will be high on deadline day. Please contact customer support in advance of the deadline if you experience any difficulties with submitting your application so that we can assist you in good time. We'll now have an overview of the IFS system, which is used to submit applications. When you click Apply on the competition web page, you will be directed here. Use the keyword search to find a competition you're interested in, click on the title, and then it opens the competition. Click on the competition to see a tabbed view of the eligibility criteria, scope, key dates, and information on how to apply. When you are happy to apply, simply click Start New Application. To apply for a competition, the lead applicant will need to create an account. If you've applied for previous competitions on IFS, you can simply sign in. If you've forgotten your password, please click Need Help Signing In or Creating an account drop down. This will bring you to the Forgotten Password link. You can use Companies House Lookup to search for your organisation to save typing in the name and address. If you're not listed on Companies House, you can enter your information manually. We advise that research organisations and academics and universities manually enter your information so that you're not listed as a business on IFS and ensure that you receive the correct funding. The first section of the application is project details, and listed on this slide are the different categories. Please make sure your research category is correct, and as this is used to calculate your grant value. The lead applicant completes this. For subsidy basis, please list where the partners are based in your project. This is not applicable for any academic partners, but all other partners in your consortium will need to answer this question. For project summary, please highlight the need or challenge and approach in innovation and the outcomes. This is key to setting the scene for the assessors as it gives them an overview of your vision. For your public description, this will be published if your project is successful, so please be aware of confidentiality here. For scope, it's important that you include you ensure that your project is within the scope to receive funding. Please use this field to justify how your project fits the scope for the assessors. If you're unsure as to whether your application is in scope for this competition, please contact the customer support team. Excuse me. Section 2 is the questions part of the application, and this consists of 11 questions shown on this slide. Please note that very detailed guidance is associated with each question on IFS, and questions 3, 4, 8 and 9 allow for appendices. Moving on now to the finances of an application. To claim funding, your business does not have to be a UK registered. To claim funding, your business does not have to be UK registered with Companies House when you apply, but it must be registered before you can receive funding. You are unable to claim funding if you are an overseas organisation, your organisation is set up as a branch, you're a collaboration with no formal structure of ownership or control, or you are a Crown dependency. You are also unable to claim funding if your company is based in any of the British overseas territories, some of which are listed on this slide. These are the project cost categories that can be used within IFS, and we're just going to break these down a bit further. So for labour costs, you need to enter the role within the project and the gross annual salary, the number of staff and the days to be spent on the project. It will then automatically calculate the total costs. If you have multiple people on the same role, on the same average salary, enter this in the role within project field. If an employee is part-time, you should enter their costs as the full-time equivalent. You can adjust the working days per year from the default as this is if this is different for your project. Please note that dividends, bonuses and non-productive time cannot be included within your labour costs. They are ineligible. When making grant claims against labour costs, actual costs claimed must be supported with timesheets. For material costs, please enter and describe what materials you intend to use on the project, the volume and the cost. The materials listed must be specific. Please provide as much information as possible. For example, just putting consumables at £50,000 does not provide enough detail, and you will be required to provide more information from the project finance team if you are successful. Any items which would usually depreciate as your company's policy should be listed in capital usage. Material supplied by associated companies or subcontracted from other consortium members, these must be listed at cost, excluding any profit element or margin. Moving on to subcontractors, if this cost is going to be significant, then you will need to justify who, why, and what you need them for, both here and in your application. It's important that you justify the use of subcontractors within your application, especially those that are non-UK based. As the assessors do not see this level of financial detail, they can only see total cost. If you use a parent or sister company, please ensure you list the cost and do not include profit. For travel and subsistence, we would ask that you include things such as essential meetings that need to happen during the project. You cannot include sales and marketing activity as this is ineligible. Travel costs must be economy travel only, and you should be prepared to provide a breakdown of these costs if the project finance reviewer asks for more detail. So we define overheads as additional costs and operational expenses incurred directly as a result of the project. These could include additional costs for administrative staff, general IT, rent, and utilities. You can select from 3 options you can see on the screen how you would like your overheads calculated. We class indirect overheads as those costs associated with back office functions such as finance and HR, whose primary function is to support the running of the business. They can only claim a portion of their time and their work needs to be additional to the delivery of the project. Typically, these costs are not directly related to particular product or service production. Direct overheads are costs associated with staff working directly on the project, for example, laptops, desks, and office facilities. We supply a simple form in which you can list out each type of direct overhead together with the methodology basis of appointment to this particular project. Again, these overheads would not be incurred if the project does not happen. We also have an other category which covers items such as facility usage and license fees. This is a summary of the project costs available to all the organisations in the project. You will not be able to see any more detailed breakdowns of anyone else's costs. Please ensure that the highlighted total costs fit the criteria for the competition. As a reminder, the minimum amount for both strands of this competition is £50,000 and a maximum total grant of up to £200,000 for single applicants and £500,000 for collaborations. Funding rules, as previously mentioned, the level of funding awarded will depend on the type of organisation and the type of research being undertaken in the project. IFS will calculate the grant based on the answers you have input. As a reminder, the amount of funding you're eligible to receive is dependent on your organisation type, and this table just goes through that again. We will now have a quick look at academic partners. Academic partners in your consortium will need to complete a GES form, which they should be familiar with. The form validates costs for us. Innovate UK don't have access to the GES system to extract information ourselves, which is why this needs to be sent to us. When they've completed their GES form, academics will need to include their unique reference number on IFS and input their figures. Please ensure the figures you provide are identical. The form must be with council status and uploaded to IFS as a PDF. So we're just going to have a quick look now at submitting your application. For collaborative applications, IFS will highlight any partners who have outstanding project finances to complete to the lead applicant. All finances must be included in the application before the lead applicant can submit. It will also check that your research participation costs are within the required limits for IFS does not validate project costs. It is your responsibility to ensure all costs are within the eligible total project costs as stated on the brief and guidance. If you find you need to edit your application once it's been submitted, you need to reopen your application. On your IFS dashboard, you will see the option to reopen as shown on this slide. The option to reopen is also visible on your application status page. Once reopened, you can make changes to your application, and once you've finished, please remember to resubmit. Just click on the green Review and Submit button to review your application once more, and then click the final Submit button. And another reminder about submitting your applications early. This table shows the number of applicants submitting their proposals each hour leading up to the 11 AM deadline. As you can see, the majority of applicants leave it to the final hours. We strongly recommend submitting your application early in good time to avoid any technical last-minute issues. We'll now just briefly look at how your application will be assessed. Innovate UK also have a YouTube channel with lots of useful information about this process, which we would recommend you have a look at. So all of our applications are assessed by an independent pool of assessors drawn from industry and academia. We require assessors to maintain confidentiality and declare any conflict of interest, ensuring a fair and transparent process. Assessors are unable to contact you regarding your application content. It is important that your application contains justification for a viable opportunity for growth and a level of innovation that necessitates public investment, clear and concise answers, and the right amount of information. We recommend you review the competition brief and guidance for help. Assessors will score each section of your application, and after the assessor process, Innovate UK will independently moderate assessor scores. If any outliers are found, some scores may be removed and your total score will be updated. You will then receive email notification to offer grant funding or inform you that your application has been unsuccessful on this occasion. Whether successful or unsuccessful in receiving grant funding, you will receive feedback on your application. This is intended to be constructive in nature and to highlight both the strong as well as the weak areas of your application. We will now look at the project setup process for our successful applicants. If you are unsuccessful in this competition, you can use the feedback from the assessors to develop your idea and apply it into another competition that allows previously submitted applications. If you are successful in this competition, you will be assigned a delivery executive who will guide you through the project setup process. You will have 30 days to complete the project team, project details, and bank details. You will then have 90 days to complete project setup. Funding may be withdrawn if this is not completed within this timeframe. All communications about project setup will be through the IFS system, and the lead applicant must provide collaboration agreements and exploitation plans if applicable. Any partners with individual total project costs of up to £50,000 must provide evidence with a statement of expenditure, and any partners with individual total project costs of above £50,000 must provide evidence with an independent accountant's report. And finally, just to touch on what additional support there is for our applicants. So Innovate Edge offer applicants intensive growth and scaling support tailored to the needs of each client. These services are offered alongside project funding to Innovate UK award winners, most of whom engage with us. They are an innovation and growth specialist who work within the company's leadership to hone its commercial strategy. And then we've got a quick video here just to run through what Innovate Edge do and how we work together.
The company are doubling the size of their business year on year and have done that since we started interacting with them.
Our expert content redefines educational resources.
We're taking this technology and making millions of items a month for the first time done digitally.
We design awesome robots that make working lives better.
We're developing a 15-minute test. It saves time, it saves money, and ultimately it will save lives.
I work very closely with innovative companies and deliver bespoke innovation support.
We worked on the marketing strategy, IP strategy, and is allowing us now to go international, so I'm helping them to reach new markets.
Innovate UK Edge has enabled us to grow more efficiently, more effectively, and go to market quicker.
It's getting late, you're doing good, I'm doing great.
Great, thanks. So diversity in all its many forms matters. A great idea can come from anyone. Evidence shows that diversity in businesses contributes to enhanced performance and commercial success. We want anyone to be able to apply to Innovate UK and are developing processes and systems to ensure equitable access. If you have a disability or long-term condition and face any barriers applying to Innovate UK and would like support, please do contact our customer support team, or email is also available. So I will now open the floor for any more questions relating to what we've been through today. While we answer some of those questions, I'm going to leave the following slide up as it details our customer support team and any other contact methods that you guys might need. So let's go back to the questions. To develop AI, you need lots of training data, but it was previously mentioned data projects are excluded. So how do we establish if our project is in scope or not?
So I think I said probably after this question came in that a project that is using data to try and do something like develop an AI model, that would be in scope. A project that is trying to allow new access to a data set or a number of data sets would be most likely out of scope. CSS, as Sarah just put on the screen, you can ask them questions, and if it's a question about scope, that will come through to me, and either I can answer it in written form, or we could potentially have a further discussion. So I'm happy to discuss with people that come through the CSS organisation scope of a proposal. I wouldn't be able to talk about quality of the proposal or likelihood of funding or anything like that, so please don't ask me that sort of question, but if you want to talk about scope, then that's an opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. Is there a cap on any award through this call? If so, is the cap different for single and collaborative projects?
I think we've answered that question in terms of the funding. The grant funding would be 500k maximum for a collaborative project and 200k maximum for a single project.
Is the fund limited to the UK market? Can it be used internationally? Again, I believe we touched on this. International people can be collaborators, but they can't receive funding.
I think this question is potentially slightly different since it talks about market. So
Okay.
Exploitation of the solution can be anywhere in the world, but we want benefit to return to the UK. So we would be looking for the entity that is a UK-based entity to be rolling that out on an international market, if that's what the intention is.
Could you tell us more about the types of teams you are looking to apply into the collaborative scheme?
So I think the ultimate thing is that the team that you propose, there needs to be a clear benefit of that team. The makeup of that team could be whatever benefits you, provided there is at least one SME in that team. That's really the only restriction. But if you decide that that you need to include academics, people from the government sector, RTOs and businesses in there, provided you can justify why they're all involved and what they bring to the project, then the makeup of the team is up to you. We're not prejudicing what we're looking for, other than there needs to be an SME involved.
Thanks, Stephen. Can collaboration be with a government entity?
Yes.
Great. I hope you are primarily interested in funding good projects, and if there is a shade of grey about too much weight on access to data, you would tend to allow the project to go forward.
So absolutely, we are interested in funding the best projects, and we will take a sensible judgment on what is a data project and what isn't. At the same time, if we have coming up some funding that is specific to data projects, I don't want to then make it or make it such that we would not be able to fund a really good non-data access project because we've chosen to accept a data access project into this thing. So we're trying to balance the areas that we're addressing, making sure that we can address both data access, which is an important thing, which is why we have a separate competition, as well as other types of projects.
Great, thank you. Can you give an example of a collaborative stream / project that would be acceptable around open finance?
Let's hit my imagination limits, I think. Let me come back to that if
yeah,
something
that's
occurs to
fine.
me, but ultimately, if I can imagine all the projects, then they're not probably not particularly novel or innovative. I'm looking for people to come up with innovative ways, innovative projects, innovative proposals, etc.
Great, thanks, Stephen. Is there a role for a university to participate in such a project with management economic research rather than development of AI solution?
So I think the answer is yes, in that management research is potentially about human behavioral things or process things or that sort of thing. So absolutely, that's what we're trying to include. So having social science, which is management in economics, is much as anything, involved in a project, yes, we would support that.
Great, thanks, Stephen. Is a UK permanent establishment eligible for single participant funding?
I'm not sure I understand this question as to whether a UK permanent establishment is a technical term or whether it's just saying if you have a permanent part of a global business in the UK. If it's the latter, then yes, that would be, sorry, it says single participant. To be clear, the single participant funding is only available for SMEs, right? So if it's a international global business, it's unlikely to be an SME. So then it wouldn't be, but
Great.
perhaps whoever asked that question, if they can clarify the question, we can
yeah. Thank you. Can a business lead on a project in each strand of these two competitions, or is it only one in total?
So I think you withdrew that question afterwards because it was just answered. It's
oh, sorry, yeah, I do see that. Given Stephen's correction on the slide in relation to the total grant available, what percentage for each that is allowable against the project costs?
I think this is the question asking about the 30% of academic cost limits. We probably need to confirm that outside, but I would expect it's 30% of the project funding. The grant funding is a maximum to go across the academics, RTOs, etc.
What is the split of the 7 million grant across the individual and collaborative scheme? Sorry.
We're not specifying a split ahead of time. We will look at the proposals that come in and try and ensure a balance that balances across those schemes, but also balances across the sectors that we're looking at, the areas of interest. So we're taking what we call a portfolio approach across this.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. What percentages are used to calculate the resultant potential grant from the total project costs?
Again, I'm not sure exactly what this is asking, so if my answer doesn't cover it, please re-ask the question. But the percentages per organisation, the maximum percentage you can take as a grant per organisation were within the slides, so the 45% through to 70%, depending on organization size and the nature of the research that's being undertaken, the sort of stage within development of that. Those are maximum percentages. So it could be that a proposal for an organization in the collaboration, one of the organizations within the collaboration, they take a lower percentage than that, but those are maximum percentages. So I think that percentage thing has been answered within the slides. If I've misunderstood the question, then please do repost. You're on mute, Sarah.
Oh, sorry. I think that's all the questions that we've received, that we've answered today. So thank you everybody for all those questions. If we've not answered your questions or you do have a further query, please do contact our customer support team. They're always happy to help you, and they will forward any questions that they get to either myself or Stephen for input. Other than that, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the panel members for their support today, and I'd like to wish you all the best of luck in your applications.
Innovate UK KTN Innovation Exchange provides ambitious solution providers with the opportunity to collaborate with key industry stakeholders, helping these major businesses discover the most innovative solutions to solve real-world problems.
IX is a bit different to any other open innovation programme that you might see. What I love about it is if a challenge holder, as we define them, has a problem that they can't solve with their existing supply chain, we help reach parts of the supply chain that they wouldn't normally reach. I guess we have a black book that other organisations might not have at their fingertips.
First of all, it's the challenge owners, and they really like it because it allows them to get access to new ideas from different sectors of people they wouldn't normally meet. And the second party are the solution providers. And what they really struggle with is getting access, getting their foot through the door to the right people. And this takes them and introduces them to the right people with the technical skills that will assess what they're proposing.
It helps people find things they didn't know. It's those solutions that, gosh, never even thought that would work, or I didn't know that we could sell that to those. And that's the advantage for both sides.
The main benefit of Innovation Exchange is it breaks down barriers, it breaks down silos. Innovation and commercialisation is perceived as incredibly difficult. The IX process facilitates the transition of technology through to commercialisation across sectors.
Large companies, small companies, everybody's busy, everybody is tied up. We try and reduce the amount of time that you need to put into to get what you require. So with the Innovation Exchange, we've proven it to be successful primarily in the energy sector. However, net zero gives us a great opportunity to step into other sectors. In addition, we have potential growth areas with local authorities. We can create an Innovation Exchange for the investor network. So there are a great number of areas where this can grow.
The way we've designed the IX process makes it really easy for public sector organisations to implement, as it maps perfectly to the innovation partnership procurement routes.
The solutions that we've been able to extract through the process, we've reached out to, I think, some 40,000 businesses across the UK. We've really gained from the technologists in the KTN and the real subject matter experts that could really help us to distinguish from what might be good projects to what are excellent projects. We've really been able to get the cream of the crop through that to get to some really, really exciting, promising, highly innovative projects that I think without the KTN we wouldn't necessarily have been able to find.
Our technology began initially in the food industry, and then by the help of KTN we managed to move it into nuclear industry, but also now we are thinking of its use in other sectors.
And by joining basically such a program into the KTN, this helps a lot into bridging this gap and get into a better insights. What are the end users' challenges and what they're looking for? And it will help us, as you have seen, into interdisciplinary application, taking our knowledge, our expertise and applying it into other sectors.
Through relationships and also technical development, I don't think that we've experienced a better setup than the KTN IX program.
If I had to sum it up in one thing, it would be kind of this end-to-end support. So it wasn't that we had, a different point of contact for different parts of it and things got lost along the way. No, we were engaging with the same people from the start to finish. So there was this kind of consistency in what we were wanting to do, and there was some ownership of it from the KTN side, which we really valued.
We've got quite a big Innovate UK project now through our networks with the KTN because of getting involved in Innovation Exchange. So I highly recommend it.
Connecting people to make positive change, and that's what Innovation Exchange allows.